When I was growing up, my family and I lived in caravans, tents, at caravan parks, cheap rentals with mold and creaky floors, and people's backyard sheds, in swags and camping beds. One house was near the power stations, and a paper factory, in Mall Victoria, and the fumes used to make the whole town smell like sewage. The rainwater had coal in it from the power plant. That house was old and run down. I had to stay in a room where the previous tenants kept their dogs. Those dogs used to pee in there, so it smelled like dog pee. Mum and Dad weren't aware of the smell of the paper factory and called a plumber. There turned out to be nothing wrong with the toilet. The reason they found out what the smell was is because Dad's friend's sister, who lived a few suburbs away, and told us about the smell. That house also had mold growing in the shower and on the windows. It must have been pretty old, because there were huge fruit trees in the front and backyard. Recently I looked up that house on Google Maps and sadly the fruit trees are gone. Also in the Google photo, there was police tape around the property, so it probably got demolished. I just had another look at the address on Google Maps, and it appears that a new house has been built on that property. Maybe it has just been repainted, I'm not sure. One of the worst places I lived at was in someone's backyard shed. My whole family lived in the shed for a while. My sister wasn't born yet. I think it was just me and my oldest brother, and my middle brother at the time. So, 5 people living in a shed. I also think living in a caravan with an annex set up in a caravan park was also bad. It was rough, especially in Queensland with the flash flooding which came right up to our caravan annex setup. Another place we lived which was bad was a house in Queensland on stilts. When we moved in there was a snake in a cupboard and sewing pins in the carpet, which I stepped on. My parents didn't have a washing machine, so we washed our clothes in the bath. Dad used to make us kids stomp around in the bath to wash the clothes. He made a song saying "Stomp, stomp, Goliath" because he was religious. That was fun a few times until we got sick of doing it. I look back at the experiences as an adult and start to have questions. I question things like, why were Mum and Dad always moving? Were they on the run from something? Or drug-related? Or maybe because Dad potentially isn't my real dad. Could the reason even be because I was meant to be sacrificed? The reason I ask that question is because I wasn't given a birth certificate or tax file number. I had to buy my own birth certificate and apply for a tax file number in high school. Maybe my parents went back on a deal with the devil and decided to keep me. I think I could be overthinking the reason why they moved so much, but I'm just curious. They probably just wanted to travel, and maybe there's nothing more to it than that. My parents didn't buy themselves brand new clothes. Dad would wear t-shirts with holes in them. When I was a teenager, I felt embarrassed being seen with Dad in public with old t-shirts. He wore the old shirts into Centrelink too. Maybe that helped him receive more benefits or something. My parents were Jehovah's Witnesses growing up, which I mentioned. When I turned 13 or 14, they decided not to believe in any religion anymore. They lost faith in God, mostly because my sister couldn't walk, and they thought God wasn't listening to their prayers to heal her. I remember when my family went to church one Easter, the Sunday school teacher gave all the kids an Easter egg, and I wasn't allowed to have one. My parents were over-strict, but put on a facade to the outside world that they are a perfect family with quiet and well-behaved kids. I felt so left out from not having an Easter egg. If me and my oldest brother were playing around like children do, at church or people's houses, Dad would threaten to strap us when we got home, which he kept his word about that. I used to dread going home, and it caused anxiety. Mum wasn't a very nurturing mother. She didn't hug me, and when she brushed my hair, she yanked hard. She pulled out the knots roughly and threw the brush across the hallway screaming at me. I forgive her for how she treated me. I understand she was a young parent living an unstable life, so she took out her anger on me, which I now understand as an adult. She must have been tired of struggling and depending on Dad to provide for the family. Dad also took her away from her family and was hesitant in moving back to be closer to her family. One reason we moved back to Western Australia the last time is because Mum wanted to be around her mum before she passed away. She died of skin cancer sadly. It took her a lot of convincing to talk Dad into moving back home. Mum used to make me brush her hair and squeeze all the pimples on her head. It was disgusting. I felt grossed out doing it. Her hair is greasy as well, which made it worse. Also, I hate germs. I still remember how my hands felt being covered in a greasy feeling. Me and my oldest brother had it the worst. We got so sick of changing schools and moving that when we had to move high school again for the last time, my oldest brother and I put up a fight to stay and to stop moving schools. But we didn't win the fight. When we did move for the last time, my parents decided to finally settle down, which was good for our younger siblings. My younger brothers had a normal childhood compared to me and my oldest brother. Mum and Dad were less strict and dropped all their religious beliefs when they were growing up, so they had a normal childhood, which me and my oldest brother resented a lot. My parents neglected me when I was little, when my baby teeth were ready to come out. They let my front baby teeth rot in my mouth while my adult teeth were pushing through. That caused my adult teeth to be pushed inwards and crooked. In my teens, I saved up for teeth straightening aligners. I was living at my Nan and Pop's house on my dad's side at the time. I saved up $3,000 from working after school and on weekends. I think I was getting help from Centrelink too, so that helped me afford it. I decided to go ahead and buy the teeth aligners. My granddad, Pop, was so mad at me for it. He was a control freak. I didn't like being around him at all, especially when he was teaching me to drive. I went to the dentist and got the aligners made up. I did have straight teeth for about a year after I stopped using them. They didn't fit properly and scratched my enamel, which was one bad thing about wearing the aligners. I still have sensitive teeth from the damage. I had to stop wearing them when I was 19 or 20, so my teeth are crooked again now, and I have TMJ, a crooked jaw, which I want to get fixed one day. I also have a smaller jaw from getting my wisdom teeth removed. My jaw makes me feel a little bit inconfident in myself sometimes. When I was 9 years old at the same house that I witnessed my dad doing the abuse to my sister, Mum let a homeless lady stay for a while. She fed her and took care of her for about 2 weeks. Then after 2 weeks, Mum started abusing her, telling her swear words to get out, screaming down the whole neighborhood. The lady was confused and so was I. That's how my parents treated people and animals. They acted nice, then kicked them to the curb when they didn't want them around anymore. While the homeless lady was living with us, she gave me a second-hand jacket. It smelled like cigarettes and strong perfume. I was forced to like it by my own guilt and people-pleasing nature. I had to wear it on a family day-out trip with her and my family to the rainforest. I felt so carsick from the smell of the jacket, I wanted to take it off. I hated it because of the germ phobia I had back then too. Also, that day was a bad day because we all got leeches on us. Dad brought salt, so he put it on us to kill the leeches. I felt so paranoid of leeches all the way home and had a shower straight away. When I was about 3 or 4 years old, I think my mum, Dad and oldest brother were at a circus or festival of some sort. My dad gave me a small glass of alcohol there for some reason, and I remember sitting on his shoulders tipsy. I just pray nothing sexual happened to me that day. I mention this experience in this chapter because I just want to say that I forgive him for being neglectful, and that he was young, so I understand that he was just immature. One day Dad was playing with me and my brother. We were about 3 and 4, maybe I was 5 years old. I remember Dad made a gap on his lap for us to climb through. I didn't do it because I felt uncomfortable. I realized what Dad was doing and his intentions behind the playing. I remember seeing his eyes and face with that sexual look as my brother was playing on his lap, going through the gap. I walked away because it made me feel strange seeing that. My intuition was amazing at such a young age. That's probably why Dad always resented me, because I was alert and knew his true behavior and intentions of his actions with my intuition. That's why I believe he tried to dumb me down and abuse me so much my whole past life. He wanted to easily control me and keep doing his abuse by shutting me up. I forgive him because he probably had an evil spirit controlling him, or was sexually impulsive, which he probably couldn't control. He needed help, serious help. He probably still needs help, but I haven't seen him in over 7 years now. Who knows, he probably changed. Only God can truly judge a person by their actions and their heart, no matter what they have done. Also, I am not a victim, and the past doesn't control my future. One of the first schools I went to, in between homeschooling, in Queensland, I remember getting teased by other kids because my hat had sunflowers on it and wasn't uniform. It was a cheap op-shop hat that Mum bought me to wear to school. My parents didn't want to buy me a school hat. They didn't like spending money on uniform, as I mentioned when I talked about my high school experience. At that same school I got teased for my hat. There was an event and there were hot dogs at the canteen. My parents knew about it, so they didn't pack me lunch. They assumed the hot dogs were going to be free, but the hot dogs were $2 each, so I couldn't have one. I was hungry and neglected that day. I thought the teachers were mean too, because they let me go hungry. One teacher said, "Well, if you don't pay then you don't get one." I felt so left out and isolated. At that same primary school one time, it was parents cooking in the canteen day. My mum was there making chapatis with butter and sprinkles. Like flat fairy bread. I went up to get one and Mum told me to go away, it's not for you. Then a girl was eating one and I was crying. No one told me how the canteen worked or how money works. Mum never talked to me as a kid. I didn't know anything about how money worked. Like I talk about in a bit, my parents didn't know how to communicate with me and explain things to me. A few times when my family lived in Perth, at one house we lived in, my dad would force me to eat packaging puff balls from Safeway, a health food company, because apparently the puff balls are edible. He made me eat it with milk for breakfast. It was like styrofoam stuff with no taste. That's probably one reason I developed celiacs later in life. Also another theory is because Mum always made us eat homemade flatbread chapatis, which was just flour and water, which always gave me a bellyache. I forgive him now, as an adult, because I think maybe he was going through something financially. At one of the primary schools, everyone was getting school photos done. My parents didn't want to pay to get my photos done. I felt embarrassed around classmates because I felt cheap and left out. I think I remember I used my own money to get school photos done just so I would fit in. I can't remember what happened. Maybe I didn't end up getting them because I've never seen them. Or they could have got thrown out as punishment. My parents believed everything the school asks money for should be free and paid for by the government. Once at one of the houses we lived in at Perth, I got knits from girls at school. Mum decided instead of doing things the right way and buying knit shampoo, she put my head into the laundry sink and poured methylated spirits onto my head. I don't think that's normal or totally safe for a child. Now that I'm an adult, I understand that Mum only did that because knits are hard to kill. I held on to resentment for what she did for a long time. I just know I personally wouldn't put metho on a child's head. One reason, the fumes are dangerous to breathe in, and it could get absorbed into the skin. Also, it's a dangerous flammable cleaning chemical. I was a black sheep in preschool. I didn't fit in. Girls were so mean and didn't want me to play with them. They excluded me. One girl was giving all the other girls sticker earrings, but didn't give me anything. This is probably one of the root causes to why I still can't make friends. I feel like I will be excluded and left out, and I also have trust issues. I think they will switch up on me, because that always happens every time I make a friend. My parents used to give me and my brothers alcohol and say, "It's a secret, don't tell anyone." We always had glasses of port and wine as kids, especially in our teens, which was irresponsible and neglectful. They always let us sip their alcohol from their glass too. They were probably trying to get us addicted to bad things so that we would become failures in life with no future. Another time my parents were abusive over a small simple mistake I made is, once they gave me an oven-baked glass decoration to do. They didn't explain the instructions to me, so I mixed it all together, then I got yelled at. When it came out of the oven, I got in so much trouble because it didn't work out. All the colors were mixed. Dad kept lecturing me and making me feel bad. I was just 4 or 5 years old. I think my youngest brother was a baby, or maybe he wasn't born yet at that time, so I was young. Dad gave me the same treatment when we went to someone's house, and they had a chalkboard. I had never seen one before. Dad gave me some chalk to draw with but didn't explain what it was. I thought he was giving me food, and so I started eating it. He lectured me and made me feel bad because I ate the chalk. It wasn't my fault. A pattern my parents had was expecting me to know things without explaining anything to me. Then if I make a mistake, I'm the failure, the bad guy. I forgive them though, because they were young parents who had their own unhealed traumas. They just took out their frustration on me because it's better than fighting with each other. They just didn't know how to communicate with me. They didn't explain how things work. Once Dad told me to eat a green chili off a chili bush, which was growing under the house, and that the green ones aren't hot. I acted dumb and did it because I couldn't argue with Dad. I knew it would be hot. I was forced to eat one for his humor, and it was a horrible experience. I went upstairs in so much pain and remember stuffing teddies in my mouth to cool my mouth down. I almost blacked out from lack of breathing properly. That was abuse in my opinion, not a funny joke. These experiences I talked about in this chapter are just some examples of the way I was treated in my childhood. I forgive my parents. All I wish is that they can heal their own inner child in this lifetime, and to forgive themselves for all they have done.